Well, I don't even know whether to say good morning or good evening because it's exactly 12 noon here on the East Coast. It is Friday, March 7th, 2025, and this is the DMZ America Podcast coming to you from the left. I'm editorial cartoonist Ted Rall.
And coming to you from the right, I'm editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis. So the question of the day, the question du jour, the question that is on all of our minds, well, some of our minds, well, a few people. Well, okay, Ted and my mind is Donald Trump that good or are the Democrats that bad?
That is the question.
As many of you know, as all of you know, there was a State of the Union address. Well, it wasn't a State of the Union address. It was a presidential address to the joint houses of Congress because for some weird reason, the State of the Union does not become the State of the Union until the president has been in office for over a year. So let's clear that up right away and to let you know that Ted and I actually know this. But there was an address to the joint session of Congress. High statesmanship was not seen. It was supposed to be politics as poetry. We heard pretty much nothing but fart jokes. Ted, but the fact, going into it, you knew that the Democratic strategy, as soon as the cameras flashed onto them, was going to be a catastrophe because you and I have talked about things that are on television, things people see are very different than what they hear. No one's listening to the speech. What they do see is Democrats with their little placards, which looked so incredibly inept and emasculating and a bunch of other words. I've never seen anything quite like it. The State of the Union has never, there becomes some semblance of normalcy during the Biden administration, but not by a lot. And then it just went full frontal Trump this last time around. For those of you who saw it, Ted, I watched it because, I'm an idiot. And it was also the longest State of the Union address in history. So Trump can cling to that. But the reaction by the Republicans was you just had this group of people who looked like they were developmentally disabled going, oh, and then you had the Democrats looking like petulant first wives. I don't know how else to put it, Ted. They just looked bad. And there are moments that you can applaud in this country. And Donald Trump knew this, and he did a couple of things. A family whose life was destroyed by violent crime. Another police officer who was injured in the line of duty. You can applaud that. But first and foremost, a kid with brain cancer. Can we agree that the kids with brain cancer deserve to be applauded? Can we find common ground on that, Ted?
Yes, we can agree upon that, and yes, we all feel very, very, very sorry for kids with brain cancer and all the other cancers.
Of course, but it was just one of those moments where, yeah, okay, we can agree on the kids with cancer, but apparently we can't. We are in such a terrible state, Ted. Both sides, and I know people say, oh, it's not both sides. Yeah, it is. It really and truly is. And the Democrats prove themselves to be just as inept and just as childish or childlike. I don't want to insult children, and I apologize for all the children who are listening right now. I don't want to, but they seem as childlike, if not more so than the Republicans did during the State of the Union address. And it was an embarrassment. And this is the opposition. Now, the guy who was kicked out, he's an old-time, a Democrat from Houston, Texas, who was yelling at the podium. He was escorted out. Now, you notice Marjorie
Al
Taylor Greene,
who I thought was a soul singer, but I was mistaken.
No, well, apparently he left soul singing to become a member of Congress.
Black guy. Yeah.
Yeah, with a walking stick, with a gold head.
Yeah.
It's pointing it at the podium. But that's
I don't think I'd ever live long enough to see an old man waving his cane on the floors of Congress. But here we go.
Let me take a few steps back and just mention that Ted and I are of a certain age. And the State of the Union addresses were boring affairs. They were the president doing
very disappointing.
Yeah, as the Constitution said, the president shall from time to time, and he was addressing the Congress and telling them what the agenda going forward would be. That is the purpose. And, for decades, Ted and I would watch it because we were, well, what's the word, Ted? Dorks.
Works. Yeah.
Yeah, dorks. So we'd watch it dutifully, as most Americans did. And they were not in that. They were interesting in the sense of, here's where this president wants us to go. Mm-hmm. And you could and there were responses which were equally as boring. Mm-hmm. And then I'd say around the time someone yelled liar at President Clinton is when the dam started to break.
I think it was Obama, right?
Was that Obama? Okay. Yes, you're right. So. I apologize. It was Obama. You didn't have quite this with the Bush State of the Unions, although after he got us into those two stupid wars, there were murmurs and, boos, which again, that was new. And now we have this, and we have the Democrats sitting stoically with their little placards. And it was just so inept. It was so, in the response, Ted and I talked about this before the State of the Union address, and the response to the State of the Union should be immediate because that's the media market we live in. There's immediate responses to things that happen. But the Democrat, especially with Trump, and even the Republicans do the same thing. They have pre-written speeches. Now, they give this honor to usually pretty young members, often inexperienced members, to kind of raise their national profile. Correct. So I get being nervous. Ted and I have given speeches to large crowds, sometimes, in enormous crowds. And we've spoken on television and radio as well to really large audiences. And it is daunting. But what you do is you get all of that out of your head and you say, the camera is my friend. I'm talking to them like I'm talking to my best buddy. That's how you give that speech. That's how you talk. And you respond. You say, when the president said that there is 20 million something, and he was totally full of crap there. He was wrong. And it wasn't the only thing he lied to you about. The response to the cancer kid was, we're going to applaud this kid who's clearly fighting a valiant battle against a life-threatening disease. But you can say, at the same time, he told the kid, we're going to help you fight this. And at the same time, he was gutting, and his minions were gutting the very institutions that helped research for a cure and help you, because the kid was exposed to dangerous chemicals as a youngster, apparently. And this will be, Trump is getting rid of the EPA or eviscerating it, gutting it. So that's where you come back if you're a Democrat. You don't come back with this whiny, we need to have transgender rights. I mean, because most thinking Americans feel strongly that males should not compete against females. Biological males should not compete against biological females. That's just, and it happens, 3 times in the country. I mean, you can come out and say
it happens a little more than you would think, because we're not obviously aware of every junior high school, middle school, and high school across the country where this happens. And there was one of the people in the audience was a young woman who had been injured by a trans woman. I don't remember playing what sport, basketball, maybe?
Volleyball.
Okay.
She had the ball spiked in her face.
Right. So, it does happen. I mean, look, there just aren't that many transgender athletes who are performing, at all at any kind of level. So it's interesting because it's like, I think most Americans think this is a problem. Polls show that most Democrats show that it's a problem, think it's a problem, but it's not a big problem because it doesn't happen all the time. This is really such a classic wedge issue, right? It's like flag burning in the 1990s. How many people are burning flags anyway? Like
probably a lot more than transgender athletes. I bet you that.
The point is, but it's a classic wedge issue. Republicans have obviously been benefiting from it. And unlike the 90s when, Bill Clinton had Dick Morris to advise him, Democrats don't seem to understand when they're getting their butts kicked by a wedge issue, even while it's happening. And they keep at it. But I mean, I wanted to sort of get into, look, I agree with everything you said, Scott. I mean, the Democrats looked ridiculous. And, we can commiserate, we can empathize with their plight. They don't have the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court. The only thing they've really got going for them is the press. But that's not a small thing, and they should be able to leverage that. And what they have to determine is sort of, do we want to resist the Republicans at all? There's an argument which, of all people, James Carville, the Raging Cajun, or I guess the no longer Raging Cajun, he has argued in the op-ed pages of the New York Times and online that for the time being, let when your enemy is making a mistake, let him stay out of the way. Let Donald Trump and the Republicans screw up. In some respect, they're doing so many things, they're bound to mess something up. Maybe the economy, maybe something else. Let them fall flat on their face. Then you can swoop in and pick up the pieces. Just zip it and be quiet. That is an argument. That is a strategy. It's a Or you can say, we're going to be the party of capital R resistance. We're going to show that we're going to do everything we can to stop Trump and all of his works. We're basically that was the approach that Senator Mitch McConnell advocated when he became, oh my God, my cat's going crazy. He's attacking my jacket. Anyway, Mitch McConnell said under Obama, not once but twice, I'm going to make sure he doesn't get anything done. First, I'm going to make sure he's a one-term president. When he failed at that, he's like, well, I'm going to make sure he's not going to have any legacy. Republicans really held the line. They did everything they could. They were obstructionist. So you can be obstructionist, or you can just sit on your hands. Those are your choices. It doesn't seem like Democrats have even figured that out, whether they want to resist or not. And then if they were to congressmen, resist, how would they do it? Right?
10 Democratic congressmen voted in the censure against Congressman Green for yelling at the president.
Okay, so that's insane.
Yes.
I don't think
that's nuts.
I don't
think it was a good moment, but it was, I don't know that it was a states, but like I said, they didn't kick out Taylor Greene or what Marjorie Taylor Greene when she did the exact same thing. So you could make that case, but that just sounds like whining. I'm looking at thinking of the Carville. You and I have talked about this off and on the podcast. Is that the right approach? Should they, for instance, should the Democrats just not have shown up to the State of the Union address?
I mean, I was thinking with the benefit, of course, hindsight 2020, blah, blah, blah. But I was thinking that given how lame the paddles were and everything, I mean, Babylon Beat, not always that funny, right-wing, it's the right-wing version of The Onion, but they had a pretty funny article yesterday, which was Hitler defeated by opposition party holding paddles. And Hitler's like, and, I mean, it is ridiculous. They all looked like they were, attending a Sotheby's auction. They were about to buy a Banksy painting or something, and even the execution of the signs was lame. Like, first of all, no one knows why all these women are all wearing pink, and why are they not all wearing pink? Including the guys, if you're gonna do it, you should all do it, or nobody should do it. What does it even mean? There was no communication whatsoever. I don't even know. They were wearing pink. That's it. They weren't part of Code Pink, the opposition group. Why were they wearing pink? I don't know. But it's like, why are they holding up little signs that no one can see? And when you can't see them, it's like the one side says like Musk lie, Musk steals or something. And the other one says false. Like, false? What do you mean false? How about lie? Right? Hold the so that whenever Trump says something that's not true, it's like lie. I mean, it's still stupid. The Democrats, did look really strange. They have a congresswoman who's bald for no apparent reason. There's another one who looks like she's got purple hair, who looks like she was run over by a train. We don't know what that's all about. I mean, not that the Republicans don't have their own, bestiary of bullshittery.
Oh yeah,
Marjorie Taylor Greene being an example of that. They did look like a bunch of inbred, KKK members, granted, but it's like, right now the topic here is the Democrats. What can they do to resist? This is not what resistance looks like. Over the past few weeks, we have seen some really lame attempts to quote unquote resist. You may not have noticed, Scott, and I could forgive you for not noticing, But a week ago, today, Friday, February 28th, it was supposed to be a day of national resistance when you were not supposed to buy anything, consumer boycott, because you were going to show that you were angry at Trump. How this was going to affect Trump, I don't know, but somehow this was going to happen. It was a viral computer thing. Obviously, nothing happened. In fact, actually, Amazon, which is the main target of this, their revenues went up about 1.1% last Friday, inexplicably. And so people said, well, Ted, you're so smart. What do you want us to do? And I'm like, I want you to start building a real grassroots left organization outside of the Democratic Party. Yeah, but what can we do now? You can start building a grassroots left of the Democrats organization outside of the party. Yeah, but we need to do something now. You can't do anything now. If you do something now that you are guaranteed to lose, you're going to demoralize the left even more than it already is. So don't do anything. Either do it right, do something that at least has a chance of success. Don't do anything that has no chance of success. I was thinking, with the benefit of hindsight, they should have just not shown up. I mean, after all, the Democrats are just there getting insulted, and they can't even rally. They can't even rally their own troops, right? I mean, they have Senator Elizabeth Warren, a longstanding senator, fairly high-ranking, well respected within the conference, and and here the president is calling her with racist terms, Pocahontas, during a joint session of Congress. I mean, and not only did they not all stand up and say "fuck you," or leave or start screaming at him, but nobody did. She didn't even stand up for herself and say "fuck you." I mean, that's how completely useless they are. They don't even know how. It's like a member of your a U.S. senator, a woman, has just been insulted. Native Americans have just been insulted here by the president that shouldn't stand. Even if you hate Elizabeth Warren, should be like, no, we're out. And I do think that going forward, I think it would those empty seats would speak volumes. I mean, I think the Democrats are worried that
certainly more articulately than the butts that were in them.
Well, that's true. Yeah. No, I mean, it might. I mean, I guess you could say well, we need to show that we're present and that we're participating. I don't know. I think you either don't show, or you sit there and you behave with total proper decorum, or you raise all manner of hell. You have to commit to a course of action. You can't just be all over the place and be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We have one guy who waves his cane. Then we have a third of us, with paddles, another third wearing purple for some reason that nobody knows. And then the paddles don't say anything that makes sense. And, some of us are grousing, and then some of us are applauding some parts that we like, and we're a la carting this. It's it's really simple. It's about messaging, and the messaging is completely unclear. I mean, I can't tell you what Democrats want to do. I can't tell you if they want to do anything. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think going back to the Pocahontas thing, which was stunning, and the fact that nobody stood up for her, it would be at that point, you just have to say, okay, fuck you. We're out of here. It became, and you knew, you had a sense, because there is a track record here. He has been president before. So we know that he was going to turn this into a rally, which he did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He went off script several times. He meandered. It was a lot of focus on immigration. He clearly thinks and it is, frankly, the issue that's winning, not just here in the United States, but across the globe and Western countries. But the Democrats had to know that something like this was coming, and they always seem surprised.
Yeah.
And it's nothing this guy does. This guy is all about surprising you and throwing you off your game. Mm-hmm. And the trick, it seems to me, the Democrats need to show. And I know, listen, Ted, we get a lot of bullshit. Why is Scott talking about what the Democrats should do? He's a Republican. Blah, blah, blah. Because I love politics, and I love good politics, and I love well-crafted politics and effective politics. And the Democrats are doing none of those.
And also because you don't like Donald Trump, and I think you would like to see
I don't like Donald Trump. I don't like
him.
I don't like a lot of what he's doing. I think that his financial agenda is going to be catastrophic for the American people. He thought so. Someone finally spoke to him and got through that orange hair of his and convinced him that of the same thing, that about the tariffs, that the tariffs were a terrible idea.
And the mass firings.
Well, that's still going to go through. I mean,
that appears to be winding down a bit.
It's winding down a bit, but you've got an employment report that just came out this morning, 150,000 new jobs. But you balance that against all the cuts that Musk has made, it's going to be, a big negative number. And I think Trump and his people say this is going to be bad. I mean, every economist in the world says this is going to be bad. Trump has been talking about tariffs since the 80s. He's one of these guys who gets convinced of an idea that's so good that it hasn't been tried. Well, dude, it was tried. Look at the 19th century, all of it in the United States. That we tried it a lot, and it was a train wreck. It did not work. So, you can read a book, but that's asking an awful lot of the of this White House. But where are the Democrats? So saying all of that, I say the Democrats because I believe in a strong opposition. I think in vigorous opposition. That's how things get done. That's how things get decided and settled on. And we're not anywhere near that because, as Ted pointed out, I can't tell you right now what the Democrats stand for other than they oppose Donald Trump. Past that, I got nothing. I can't. And so Ted's coming out with a book soon, which all of you should buy, which effectively establishes a platform for the left. And that's what they need. How did the Republicans win under Newt Gingrich? The contract with America. They took the House with it because Americans knew what they were voting for. Now, if the Democratic Congress contract with America is all of this identity bullshittery that they've been spewing, and they seem to think that's still a winning combination. It's not.
And it's incoherent. I mean,
and it's incoherent.
Nobody even understands it, right? I mean, it's like the whole okay, so what is this all about, and how is it affecting us? And I mean, there's no messaging on it. I mean, I think it was Gavin Newsom who recently came out and said that
the last few days.
And also he said that he sat down at some, he thinks it's silly when he goes to some conference and everybody, is he has to say, my pronouns are him, his. And it's kind of like, we know you're a dude, Gavin. He's like, I know I'm a dude. I know Why do we have to say this? It's like a land, it's like a land recognition, thing. It's like we stand here, a land acknowledgement. We stand here on the sacred ground of the Lenape people who were all slaughtered and whose blood soaks the soil and comes out on a rainy day and stains our white shoes. I mean, it's like what? I mean, what do you think you're accomplishing? It's like, it's just talk. I mean, if you're going to talk, I mean, politicians are supposed to be talking, but you have to. I mean, you have to say something. Trump's message is vague, but it is simple, right? America first. Now that could mean anything, but okay, I get it. We know what it means. It means like, oh, if there's a argument between us and Vanuatu, where Americans get priority. Okay. I mean, you can disagree with that, but the point is it's like understandable. I don't know what the Democratic Party stands for right now. I don't know what they want. I don't know if God suddenly snapped his big meaty fingers up in heaven and said, and gave Democrats 100 senators and 454 congressmen and 9 Supreme Court seats and an incredibly audacious young activist president. I don't know what they would do with that. Do you?
Not a clue. Not a clue. I mean, I think the same.
Like, I don't even know that they would legalize abortion. After all, they could have. They didn't when they had the chance.
Yeah, but Ted,
They might.
To be fair, they only had 40 years to do it.
That's a fair point.
So they're pacing themselves, and you have to respect that. It's absurd.
What's the rush? Right.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, really, what could possibly happen? Roe v. Wade's going to last forever, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, the courts, it's settled law.
Yes, that's settled law. Oh my God, so funny. And so I couldn't agree with you more, Ted, that if you think about if you handed that kind of majority to the Democrats, what would they do with it? They'd fiddle with Obamacare. They'd fiddle with Medicaid. They'd fiddle with Medicare. And that's about it. I mean, you can't on a national. They are the war party, by the way. I mean, that's what's stunning how this turned around. I mean, they've got to be looking around going, what the hell just happened? Because Donald Trump, and there are many things I dislike about him, and I've enumerated them several times. But the one thing I truly respect is it's almost an absolutist view that war is stupid. And I could not agree with him more. There are very rare instances in our history as a species where war was the smart thing to do. World War II, I think I put in that category at the last, 150 years or so. Whether or not that's, I think that's true. But all of a sudden the Republicans are the anti-war party. I mean, when the hell did that happen? I mean, I love it. It's great, and I think it's right. By the way, wars are dumb. Wars.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is very strange to see. I mean, look, I'm trying to put myself in the minds of liberal Democrats, right? And who support Ukraine. But right now, I mean, let's look at them one at a time, right? Most recent news is that Trump is reaching out to the Ayatollah in Iran, and he says, "I want to sit down with you and hash out and bring in, start moving toward normalized relations and strike a get a new nuclear deal going, so you guys don't develop a bomb." He's been very clear that he wants good relations with Iran. He just doesn't want them to have a nuclear weapon. I mean, that Iran does have that commitment under treaty obligations. So that would be a good place to land. Democrats have had 12 years in recent years to do something like that. They've made no effort whatsoever to do that. I mean, there was a brief nuclear agreement, but it was very lame.
And the big pile of money.
But honestly, I mean, Trump, I'm sure, would be willing to go to Tehran and meet with them. That's huge.
Yeah,
I'm positive of that. And that's good.
Yes, I agree.
How it should be. I mean, we know what the situation is with Ukraine. Look, you could support Ukraine as a sovereign nation that was invaded by another nation state, and certainly say that, that national sovereignty and borders are the absolute foundation of the nation state system established by Metternich in the 19th century, right? So therefore, no one should invade anyone. The problem is, of course, the United States is in no position to say that to anybody. But the point is that, okay, fair enough. But also, this has become a grinding war of attrition, and both sides have to win. This isn't an adventure for the Ukrainians; they're defending their home country. But it's also not an adventure for the Russians either. This isn't just fun. They really think that NATO, if they don't win, that NATO is going to come and kill them. So that's why it's going to keep going. And basically Russia's winning, albeit slowly, but they're winning. So it's Trump looks at this, reasonably sees, I don't see any end in sight here. Let's not keep killing more people and spending more money. Let's just end this thing. We all know where it's going to end up. Yeah. He's right about that. Then even on Israel, where, Donald Trump is a very close friend of Israel. He moved and they love him there. He moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, something that Israel hardliners had been wanting for many, many decades. No American president would do, Democrat or Republican. He did it. But, it's very clear that behind the scenes, he's pressuring the Israelis. You can't keep, bombing the Gazans. You're going to have to redevelop it. Okay, I floated my ethnic cleansing idea. Nobody likes it. Fine, the Gazans are staying there. He's not going to sign off on more bloodshed there. He wants, he wants something to move permanent. He's lusting for that Nobel Peace Prize that Obama got.
He is.
He wants one for his own. And I'm like, if that's motivating him to make peace in the Middle East, to do Camp David 2.0, fantastic. That's great. So on foreign policy, Trump, go Trump. I'm not a big fan at all of the domestic agenda, especially going after Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I think, by the way, that will be, if he does that. I don't know if he's smart enough to realize that. If he does that, he's done. That's the
if you notice, Musk has not mentioned he hasn't mentioned his little comment about Social Security being a Ponzi scheme again. He did it once, and you don't touch that rail. That's one.
No.
I know that our dominant paradigm, mine, that I grew up with in terms of politics and what is and isn't sanctioned, but Social Security truly is. You have the largest number now entering Social Security. Musk isn't wrong. I mean, it is a Ponzi scheme. You're about to.
It is a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, I turned 6. I qualify this August. I turned 62.
And I supported President Bush when he suggested 2% of it be privatized. But that's another issue for another podcast. I want to turn this. He did, and he was right. But he was right to suggest it. It was a good suggestion, frankly. It was really smart. But
I was worried. I was just worried what would happen in an economic downturn. Right?
But on average, if you had tacked it to it, it would have made like trillions. They've analyzed it. It would have done quite well and it would have built. The whole idea of it too, because Americans are, generally stupid and we don't save money. It would have built wealth for American families, many families who don't have any. So it was a smart idea. And we'll talk about that some other podcast. But what I want to get at, and when you come out with your book, which you allowed me to read, the early draft, which is really, really terrific.
Thank you, Scott.
I agreed with none of it. Which means it was very good.
None.
No, I agree. No, they're actually, I'll walk that back. There's a lot that you and I agree on in terms of practical politics and practical economics. And this addresses both. Maybe we should save that for another podcast, but I wonder if you could just touch on some of the ideas, like what you were saying, the Democrats have to do something. Democrats have to do something. We've said that for 2 or 3 podcasts now. Ted, basing this on your upcoming book, give us 1 or 2 things that they need to, this is like imperative. They need to voice an opinion. This is what contract with America kind of a stance.
Yeah, no, and I agree that it's just 2 or 3 things, because look at Bernie Sanders. He's the most effective liberal voice the party has seen in 2 decades. And, he had 3 ideas, and we all know what they are. They were minimum wage, student loan forgiveness, Medicare for all. I don't think student loan forgiveness ever caught wing. The American people don't like it. They feel like if you borrowed money to go to school, you took out a loan, you should pay it back. And if you can afford to go to college, then you're gonna make more money and you can pay it back. I can argue with it.
Ted has frozen up. I hope that doesn't mean something bad has happened. Ted, you still there?
I'm still here.
You froze up.
Sorry. I think college should be free, but that's a different thing. But I'm going to take 2 of those. So minimum wage has been frozen for a long time. Since 2009, it went up to $7.25 an hour on the federal level. Now, if the minimum wage had increased at the same rate as the official inflation rate, which you and I both know is understated and undercalculated. No. But if it had stayed at that rate since 1970, it would currently be about $29 an hour. So it's $7.25 an hour. It's so out of whack that a bunch of municipalities and states have increased it to, like here in New York State, it's $15 an hour. They still have trouble finding people at $15 an hour. The Democratic Party should adopt a clear, strong opinion in favor of a dramatic increase in the minimum wage. I would, we can argue about what that should be. There was the fight for $15, but that began like over 10 years ago. Inflation's been running rampant since then. I would say $25 an hour, right? Maybe more, maybe 30, say 30. But, do what Trump does. Start with the high negotiating thing, and then you settle on something less. But say, okay, the Democratic Party wants, if you show up to work as a warm body, you get $25 an hour. Now,
and work 40 hours a week. That should be enough to support a lifestyle. That means
you should be able to get $1,000 a week before taxes, which is not a lot of money. 52. If you don't take any vacation, that's $52,000 a year. That's not a lot of money, even if you live in rural Arkansas. So the Democratic Party should come out in favor of that. Now, the thing is, the benefit of that is it's a signal to the working class. We care about you. We want your wages to go up. We want you to earn more money. We're thinking about you. And like right-wing economists will criticize and say that it's going to cost jobs, but blah, blah, blah. But that's one. For sure, I think the outrage at insurance companies that came out after the shooting allegedly by Luigi Mangione of the CEO of Brian Thompson of United Healthcare shows us that the American people really hate private insurance companies. And so this is a great time to push for Medicare for All. Medicare for All is poorly named. We should just call it national health care. And say if you get sick, this is a rich country. We will take care of you. You can go to the doctor, it's covered. If you need drugs, they're covered. If you're old, which will hopefully happen to all of us, you will be able to go to a decent nursing home or have a home care aide come to your home and take care of you until you die. That should be, these are things that most other countries on the planet, including some that are still in the developing world, have. I think these are, I also would say that you should steal some stuff from the Republicans. I think Democrats are not going to win with an aggressive foreign policy agenda like they have now because it's not popular. And for people who are foreign policy hawks, ironically, they don't trust the Democrats. So what's the point of assuming that position? So why not come out and say the U.S. policy is we put Americans first. We don't send a dime in foreign aid or to help finance any weapons as long as a single American is in trouble, is sleeping outside, a veteran can't get help that he needs. That's not going to happen. No money's going overseas. I mean, that's three places I'd start.
Okay. No, and that seems to me, just those three, you're right. Bernie Sanders, the contract with America. I mean, don't forget the contract with America. If you remember, one of their top platforms, one of the ones they pushed hard was term limits. Remember that? And they get elected and they do.
Americans like term limits.
They do, but the Republicans did absolutely nothing to move that forward. And the Democrats wouldn't either if they got back into power.
No.
I think you're right. Minimum wage is one of those weird issues for me, because I think that if you leave wages to be determined by the capitalist system, capital inevitably crushes the working class and will keep it at $7 an hour, which is untenable. It's unlivable. The second one, healthcare, I think is huge. And what you would do under the TED plan, let's call it that, is the TED plan
economics
absolutely says to the working class who the Democrats have lost, it immediately says, we see you, we hear you, we're going to give you practical relief for what ails you.
And it's not a giveaway. It's not a taxpayer giveaway. Like, it's not welfare. It's like saying, if you work, you should get paid for working. I don't think that's radical.
A livable wage. Now, what does that mean? I think that has to be determined region by region. You talked about, there are parts of Alabama where $1,000 a month, or a week rather, is a king's salary. You said $1,000 a month?
A week.
A week. Yeah. $1,000 a week would be a king's salary. That's just would be. So I think you have to have some wiggle room, and that's where our national and state policies always get stupid. It reminds me of our response to COVID, where there are counties here in Alabama that had an infection rate of literally 0.4%. 0.0004%. And so you didn't need to you didn't need to shut down schools. You didn't need to shut down businesses. You didn't need to wear masks everywhere. What you do is you establish a protocol, which I blame the Trump administration for not doing this, but have a protocol that's clear cut that when this number happens, this happens. When this number happens, this happens. And the same can be true of minimum wage. I guess what I'm doing, Ted, is just niggling around the edges of what you've proposed. But I think you're right. I think the Democratic Party has to come out with something like that. And it has to come out with it within the next 6 months, because then
they've got to
out.
hammer away at it. It can't be like, oh, this is our talking point for this week. And then next
right,
week, like a little
and
bird, we fly off to something else. It's got to be like week after week after week after month after year after decade, if need be. We don't stop. This is what we believe in. Whether it's my ideas or some other ideas, you've got to have some ideas, and you just have to keep pounding away at them, because otherwise people they don't think you really mean it, you know? It's
they think that you can come with the Clinton model of, it was the topic of the week. We're going to discuss education this week, or we're going to discuss energy this week. And then next week, we're going to go on to another topic. You can't be ADD. You would be flying in the face in a very substantial way of Trumpism if you had that kind of focus. And that is the answer to the Democratic conundrum, which is you get out of, you get out of a free fall in an airplane by the pilot saying, okay, we're going to trim the wing. We're going to trim the, we're going to pull up the flaps or drop the flaps, depending on what your course of action is. We're going to go into a steep dive now to hopefully try to kickstart the engine. And then when that stops, we're going to level off in a slow, but you have someone in charge saying, here's how you get out of the dive, versus, well, we could give them more peanuts in the economy class. That's not going to do it for them. But by what you've just suggested, Ted, and as a politician and someone who loves politics, you can hear in my voice, it actually excites me. It tells me this is how you address what's ailing your party in an immediate, practical, meaningful way.
Let me give you another idea. Let me try this one on you. Party discipline. It's been a big criticism of the MAGA Republicans that, like, when one of them goes rogue, like the fist of Thor comes down on them. Yeah. But Democrats should try that. Like, it's like,
well, but who's in charge? That comes back to the one of the 2 or 3 questions. Who's in charge of the Democratic Party? They showed Nancy Pelosi.
It used to be Nancy Pelosi, not so much anymore. Hakeem Jeffries is a weak sister. He's not doing it.
What can you do? What can you do?
Yeah, like Hakeem Jeffrey, literally, he's okay. And while we're at it, if you're going to obstruct, then own obstructionism. Like, own it. Be like, so we have a budget battle coming up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Republicans can't pass their budget without Democratic help. If I were the Democrats, I wouldn't even negotiate. I wouldn't even talk to them. I'd be like, we have nothing to talk about. I would be a prick about it. I'd be like, I want President Trump to come out on national TV wearing no shirt and apologizing to Elizabeth Warren.
God, no one deserves to see that, but go on.
You know what I mean? Like be really like a bastard. You apologize to Elizabeth Warren. I want you to go and cut her lawn in Massachusetts. Go shovel her snow. Apologize to her. It's like, well, we're not going to do that. Okay, no budget. Sorry. It's like, it's just no budget. We don't.
Yeah,
you don't get anything. Oh, the military will run out of money. Yeah, they will. Fuck you.
I guess we won't have the Aegis destroyer to, protect us from ISIS.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, the thing about the budget and not having a budget is that a Republican governor tried that in Illinois and went 4 years without a budget, and it would cause havoc, and it got him unelected. It doesn't work. There may be a way to tweak what you're suggesting and use it in a meaningful way, but this just to flat out, we're not going to participate in this, is going to look really terrible.
I don't think that they can just go rogue.
They could say, listen, you have this in your budget. We're not voting for it, period.
Right.
You're going to have, we need 10 commandments in all the school and all the classrooms. Fuck you. No, if that's in your budget, we will not vote for it. I mean, you can have the Ted Rall model. I'm coming back to that. 3 or 4 things that you absolutely, positively, without question, equivocation, or debate will not vote for. maybe the Republicans have enough votes to pass it. Maybe it is a simple majority. I suggest and suppose that there's going to be much in the budget that they're not going to like. The omnibus bill that they're putting together now that has immigration and funding and all 1,000,001 moving parts. I can't imagine all Republicans voting unanimously for it. It's a mess. I know that's shocking coming from a party that is so intelligent and so cohesive, but the Democrats have to pick what they stand for, and they have to do it. I mentioned earlier, they have to do it within the next 4 to 6 months, because the midterms are coming up in a year after that, and they better stand for something versus
do you think we have that much time? I mean, I feel like you only get one chance to make a good first impression, and the Democrats have already messed that up. I mean, what is going on here? I mean, are there internal rifts within the party?
Oh yeah.
Or
sure.
are smart people just not becoming Democratic politicians? Or is it just the nature of the Democratic Party? Like, was it Will Rogers who famously said, "I'm not a member of any organized political party. I'm a Democrat." I mean, what is it? I mean, I have to say, the Democrats have been like I've been banging on them for years, but man, they're the lameness. They got nothing now. It's worse than ever.
They have to come together for 2 or 3 points and run on those. And that will tell the American people that they're serious and they stand for something other than, I don't mind men bashing balls into girls' faces, which is exactly the takeaway from the State of the Union, exactly the takeaway from contemporary politics. There's a reason why so many people, and there was such a demographic shift to the Republicans, particularly Donald Trump, but not just Donald Trump, the Republicans. I mean, they control the House, they control the Senate, they control the majority of state houses, they control the governorships. I mean, it's a platform that people can see and can get their hands on and can vote for. They can get their hands around it and understand it. What do the Democrats offer? And it's not a hell of a lot. And like I said, here's 2 guys you're listening to right now. If you're still sticking around, hopefully. Here's 2 guys who follow politics religiously, and we cannot tell you what the Democratic Party stands for. Part of it is they're playing far too sympathetic, Ted, to things like the left wing of the party, the progressive wing of the party. They can either say, we're going to embrace it, or fuck you. But you can't have it like, oh, you have a place at the table, when progressives now are in a position to say, no, we won't. Fuck you. We don't now. Why would we have it? Why would we have it in 6 months? We don't trust you. What elicits trust is when you say, we're going to do this. We have the legislation drawn up. And from day one, when we all get sworn in and the majority of the House and the Senate swings to the Democrats, we're going to pass this. Do not, Democrats, I can't stress this enough. And Ted, you're going to start making your head go up and down like a bobblehead when I say this. Do not run on impeaching Donald Trump. That will not work, because the people who hate Donald Trump already voted for you.
You already did that. You did it twice.
Do it.
You screwed up.
But hating Donald Trump also because Donald Trump and the Republican Party have embraced principles that the working class, the underemployed steelworker in Central Ohio can embrace. And you're telling them that we're going to impeach that idea. It's so stupid. And it's not statesmanlike, Ted. It's not what you and I would describe as being a governing party.
There's a place for impeachment. And
yes, and there will be. I think the crypto thing is, let's start there.
I mean, the grifting, the emoluments. Yes. Although I think, they blew their chance, and it's kind of like, I don't know.
I agree. I would not impeach Donald Trump if I won the House and Senate, if I was the Democrats, just because I could make his life a living hell. And that would be a lot more fun than kicking him out.
I would make my 6 votes my 6 Democratic votes that are needed to overcome that 60-vote supermajority needed to override the veto. I think you would need that to. I'd make those 6 votes very expensive if I were the Democrats. Why not? The Republicans made those votes very expensive when the Democrats needed them, right?
I'm trying to recall some of the capitulation that the Democrats in power gave, some of the goodies they gave to the Republican Party, and they were substantial. Can you remember specific? I'm trying to remember specifics.
What was it? What was that term? There was some multisyllabic word for the budget. The sequester. The budget sequester. Remember that? Where it's like, like we're going, we demand an across the board budget cut, except from defense, on everything but defense. I forget what percentage it was. Let's say it was 5% or 3%, whatever. But you have to do it, period. And otherwise, we don't increase the debt limit.
And that was massive.
One example. It was a big deal. And Democrats really didn't want to do it. They didn't like it.
Well, I don't blame them, but they did it because they wanted to get their budget passed.
Yeah.
Ted, I really do think we've hit on, and it's boring. I promised you at the top of this podcast it would be boring. We were boring.
I don't think it's boring. It might be boring to talk about, but the fact is that, okay, so quickly before we wrap up, I know, try not to laugh, Scott. What are the chances that the Democrats are going to realize that they need a short set of coherent popular principles and party discipline? What are the chances that they're going to realize that and then try to implement those things?
I think it's good. I know you're good now. You can laugh.
What?
Because it's practical politics. Because it's the only way out of the wilderness. They can keep doing what they're doing and it's failing, or they can be bold and do.
But they might just keep failing.
There's a good chance of that. Let's be clear. They never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity lately. And the State of the Union was one example. Where Donald Trump, it's Donald fucking Trump, runs circles around you rhetorically. Try to digest that in just the next few seconds. And it goes in a very weird part of your brain that actually hurts.
That's a good point.
Pain. Yeah. So there is your scenario likely? Yeah, I think we're at a 50-50 crossroads. The Democrats have to step forward and say, here's what we believe. Here is the contract, and you can call it something else.
And just stick to it.
Yeah, this is the speaking point. The word goes out
to
every state party. Yeah. Yes, this is it. This is what we run on. This is the hill we live and die on. And if you don't believe in it, then run as something else. Run as a Green Party candidate. Run as something else. But the Democratic Party believes in raising the minimum wage, healthcare for all, and
an America First foreign policy.
Yeah,
which I think honestly, I don't know. I think the Democrats have really lost their way with this Ukraine thing.
They have, and it's been a strange thing. I talk about this to my wife, who she does support Ukraine. I support Ukraine as a sovereign nation, but I don't support Ukraine as if I read this in another goddamn editorial / opinion piece, Ted, I'm going to scream from here, and you will hear it when they call Ukraine an ally. They have never been an ally. They are currently not an ally.
Don't forget, a Democratic ally.
Yeah, that's that, but that's it. And so because they gave Joe Biden and his family gazillions of dollars doesn't mean that they're an ally of the United States. We have to step back. And Ted and I have just touched on this quickly.
And also they got to stop lying to us. I'm sorry. I just don't, nobody really who has any brains really truly believes that Putin, Russia want to invade France.
I think France.
Zelensky was literally, in the Oval Office the other day saying that one day Putin's coming for us. Like, come on, dude, shut up.
I think that, as a Lithuanian American, I do believe that the Russians have an eye on the Baltics. They have an eye, and
Lithuania is a full-fledged member of NATO. Under Article 5, they're completely protected. So what? They don't have anything. And Putin's. There's no indication that Putin's stupid, right? Like that has not ever been alleged. So,
no. But I would
Why would he
argue
attack
that
Lithuania and risk World War III?
because he sees America dancing away from NATO as quickly as it possibly can. Not a bad idea.
NATO shouldn't even exist anymore.
Well, it did
To me,
seem
it's
like a
complete
weird
Guns of August kind of scenario now.
Yeah, when the walls came to, yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's just like, God, I'm just waiting for a Grand Duke to get shot. And here comes World War III.
I know. I mean, really, truly, what is the purpose of NATO? It's like it's an
It was a
Cold War construct, and it should have gone away with the Cold War.
It could have been phased out. You know me, I'm incrementalism guy.
Trump,
but
what Trump and Putin are trying to do effectively is undo the sort of the opportunity. How should I put that? They're restoring the opportunity that the world missed in 1991 when we were told that there was going to be a peace dividend. This is a second shot at the peace dividend. Let's get along. Russia and the U.S. We can do business together. We can be friends, like we were before. Yeah. We can do it again.
And I think. And I thought, and we've talked about this before in the podcast, of inviting Putin to join NATO and use it as a bulwark against China.
He wanted to.
And use it as a bulwark against Chinese expansionism and economics, to use the EU in the same way. But no, nobody can see that that's we've got to cling to these old ideas, and we're learning new stuff all the time. And guys like me who grew up in and worked in politics for decades, all of that shit I learned then is worthless. It has been flushed down the crapper. It's gone, never to return. I can stare down the toilet all I want, but it won't come back. So let's look at the reality that's on the ground. Let's end the war in Ukraine. Israel, Ted and I disagree. That's a different podcast on a resolution for that.
We should do that soon.
Yeah, because we disagree, but which is good, because that's how we come to a compromise and come to a solution going forward. But Ted, I can't stress this enough. The Ted Rall approach to what the Democrats should do going forward is absolutely the right approach. And if they don't do it, they're doomed. The people who say they will cease to exist, that's bullshit. You and I both know that doesn't happen. It's happened once with the Federalists, with the Whigs. Yeah. But that's only because
can't happen now. If that happens, it just means the whole system is gone. But yeah.
Well, that'd be okay with me, frankly. I think the political system
as you know my feelings on this point. All right, Scott. So I'm gonna take us out. And
thanks. Good talk.
Thanks, everyone. It was good talk. Good joy. Everyone have a great weekend. And thanks for listening.
Be safe out there.
Bye.
So see us at gocomics.com, Ted and I, and see us at centerclip.com. Goodbye, everybody. We love you.